Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Cold Blood Creations. We were sitting here talking just now about what our favorite snakes are that we work with here at Cold Blood Creations. And what would you say are your absolute favorite snakes to work with here?
Definitely the king snakes, because there's so many different colors, so many different kinds. We have many here. We've definitely grown over the past few years of how many king snakes we have. So in this video, what we'll be showing you is
those colorful king snakes. You guys check it out. So guys, when we talk about king snakes as pets, one of the things that make king snakes really popular as pets is the fact that they don't get very large. Now, when we talk about large snakes, of course, we're talking about the boas and the pythons and the anacondas. King snakes don't get anywhere near that size. In fact, they're small enough to be manageable even by small children. So they make a great pet, especially for children. Now, though the sizes do vary among subspecies, for instance, desert kings are always going to be just a little smaller than like your Florida kings, for example. Still, the overall size of all the subspecies of king snakes is not going to be overwhelming. They're never going to get big enough to eat your other family pets like your cat, your dog, or your neighbor's children, or anything like that. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. A newborn king snake is about the size of this right here. Now, this is a albino desert king, Lamprepeltis splendida. This one just came out of the egg, and this is what you're looking like as a hatchling. Now, this same snake here will grow into adulthood, and when it does, it will ultimately be about this long right here. As a matter of fact, what we got right here is mother and daughter. This is the mom to this little species, this little baby desert king. And this is one of the smaller subspecies of king snakes. We'll show you here in just a second the comparison of a baby Florida king to an adult. So Florida kings are a little bit larger than your deserts. In fact, this right here is a hatchling Florida king. This little fella right here has just had a couple of meals, and as you can see, fits in the palm of your hand. But I'm going to show you an adult Florida king here. This is one of our breeder males. And of course you can see that he is quite a bit bigger. However, he is a full-grown adult and certainly not to a size that's unmanageable. Again, even for a child to handle. This is what makes the popularity of the king snakes. Besides that, they come in a wide variety of colors and patterns. King snakes all have something probably for everybody. So feeding king snakes, when it comes to feeding king snakes, you have a wide variety of choices in captivity. Now, in the wild, king snakes will eat a wide variety of prey items. They will eat rodents, they will eat lizards, and king snakes will also eat other snakes. Now, one misconception about king snakes, people believe that king snakes eat other venomous snakes, or if you live in the South, other poisonous snakes if you're kin to Philbilly. But not only will these snakes eat other venomous snakes in the wild, they will also eat other non-venomous snakes, which also includes other king snakes. That's something to keep in mind when it comes to housing your king snakes. You never want to house two kings in the same cage, because you may come home one day and instead of having two small king snakes, you may have only one rather large king snake. Now, in captivity, feeding, frozen thawed versus live prey. And I'm going to be honest with you, both of them have their pluses and minuses. We're not going to get into the whole debate about which one is better, because in fact we use both depending on the need. There are a lot of people who shy away from feeding live rodents, and if you're one of those, then by all means use the frozen thawed rodents. Anytime we sell a king snake to a customer, we make sure that that king snake has consistently fed on frozen thawed rodents before we ever offer it up for sale. So, you know, if that's what you want to use, then by all means. Now, there are times when we here at Cold Blood Creations do feed live prey. For example, some baby kings just do not want to start on frozen thawed rodents. Now, when we're faced with that decision, basically it's like this. We can either let that snake continue to refuse to eat frozen thawed and thus starve to death, or we can feed it a live pinky mouse, and oftentimes they will go ahead and start feeding on a live animal. And you know, we would rather have a healthy animal that we can convert over to frozen thawed later than we would to have it starve to death fresh out of the egg. So for that reason, you know, we do sometimes use live prey. You can leave your hate comments down below, those of you who are offended by that, but you know, it's a choice we make here. And also, we'll say this when it comes to feeding frozen thawed rodents, always make sure that they are completely thawed out. One of the worst things that you can do is to feed that snake a rodent that is only partially thawed and have it to continue to thaw out in the snake's belly. That's a really bad idea, and it could end up in the death of your snake. So make sure you're completely thawing those things out, and your snake will very much appreciate that, guys. So when it comes to feeding your king snakes, if you choose to do the frozen thawed, one tool that we highly recommend is a pair of these right here. Now, we call these feeding tongs. Can't even remember what they're really called right now. Hemostats or something like that. But anyway, we call them feeding tongs because you don't want to offer your rodent with your fingers, because if you do, what could potentially happen is that the king snake will bite and constrict your fingers instead of the frozen thawed rodent. So when it comes to housing an adult king snake, we recommend a cage of about 40 gallons, like this 40-gallon breeder tank right here. Now, this is a perfect size for the larger species of kings, like the Eastern kings, the Florida kings, and maybe even the California kings. Now, this is a 40-gallon breeder tank, and basically it's a basic setup. We have a water bowl, we have a fake rock hide, we have a humidity tank right here. Now, basically a humidity tank is going to be needed if you're housing more of your southeastern species of king snakes, like, for example, Florida kings, Eastern kings, maybe even some of the speckled kings. It's not going to be needed so much if you're housing California kings or desert kings because they're on the west coast where it's not quite as humid. But a humidity cage basically allows them to shed a little bit easier, and basically what that is, it's just a margarine tub. It can be any plastic container with a hole cut in the top, and we wet newspaper and put in there. That creates a little humidity cage so that when the snake needs to shed, they can crawl in there and moisten up their body and moisten up that old loose skin. Now, something else I want to say about all glass aquariums such as this is it's probably a good idea, and it'll make your snake feel much more secure if you will block off 3 of the sides. You have 4 sides around the cage. We paint the sides black on both sides, and then this decorative background. The reason is the snakes feel a little more secure when they don't have people viewing them from all 4 sides, and you only have the front glass part here in which you can see your snake through. That way they'll feel a little safer, they'll feel a little more secure by having only one viewing point out in the front. So when it comes to housing baby king snakes, a lot of people will opt for using something like these little plastic containers right here. This is a little Sterilite 2.7, I believe it's 2.7 quart. Little cage like this, they'll fill the bottom with bedding, put a water bowl in, and put their snake in there. Now, we do want to caution you about something. While these are good temporary cages for young, especially just out of the egg snakes, something we want to caution you about. While these things do snap on each end, most people feel like they're secure. However, in the middle of these cages, as you can see right here, you can separate the lid from the top. So you want to be careful that the snake inside doesn't push up on that and crawl out. The best way if you're going to use something like that is to utilize a rack system where that you have a shelf that sits plush across the top. That way the snake can't push the lid up. We do use these little cages here, and we do like to use them in a rack system. That way this shelf right here will keep the snake from being able to push the top up. Now, if you're a reptile breeder like we are, and you've got to house multiple baby king snakes, There are racks out there that are designed for the temporary housing of snakes when they first come out of the egg. So when it comes to the various subspecies of king snakes that we work with here at Cold Blood Creations, probably one of my absolute favorites are the Florida Kings. Now, we do a variety of different Florida Kings, and we're going to show you here in just a moment some of the different varieties that we work with. Now, there are a multitude of Florida Kings that have come out in the recent years. We certainly don't work with all of them, but we do work with some of the more popular morphs, such as this absolutely gorgeous white-side Florida King. This is a white-side Florida. Basically, you can see here the sides of the snake are white, has a little bit of pattern right down the center of the back. And these guys here are just absolutely gorgeous. Now, this white side is a recessive trait. It takes two copies of that recessive gene in order to reproduce this in captivity. And you can have two white side parents, or you can have two het for white side parents and produce these white sides. Now, moving on from that, one of the other morphs that we really like is the hypomelanistic Florida King. These guys are really pretty. Now, once again, if you've seen our bull snake video, then you know what we mean by hypomelanistic. It means that there is a slight reduction of black pigment, but not a complete removal of it. In this example right here, this is a beautiful example of a hypo Florida King. Now, speaking of hypo, we can combine hypomelanism with the white side, and we produce these ivory Florida Kings like this one right here, where the patterning is pretty much solid white, looks like a bar of ivory soap. And this is a combination of two recessive traits, the hypomelanistic and the white side. Now, we also have in our collection albino Florida Kings. Here is an example of a young female. She has not reached sexual maturity yet. She is still what we would classify as a subadult, but with her voracious feeding appetite, she will be an adult before we even know it. Now, there is another trait in Florida Kings that is called aneuploidy. When you combine this particular trait, aneuploidy or axanthic, with another trait which we previously saw, hypomelanism, then the result is what has been coined as a ghost. Now, here is an example of a ghost Florida King, and again, this is both aneuploidy and hypomelanism that is visual both together in the same snake. Now, you know, if you're not into the different various color and pattern morphs, then certainly the natural look of the Florida King, there is nothing wrong with that. They do vary in color. Some of them are almost a chocolatey color, and some of them are more of a yellow color. And here's a couple examples here of the natural in both the chocolate and the more yellowish color of the Florida King. Now, before we're completely done, I want to show you these little, I've seen these called by different names. Some people refer to these as flames. Some refer to them as firecrackers, but these are little red Florida Kings, absolutely stunning animals. We have produced these for the last 2 years, and they're quickly becoming one of our favorite morphs of the Florida King. So guys, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed looking at the Florida Kings. Next, let's look at the Desert King. All right, so the Desert King, Lampripeltis splendida. This is one of our all-time favorite king snakes. And it's because there's not a lot of people that actually work with this species. Now, a couple years ago, I was looking to find morphs of the Desert King. And I looked around at some various places, and the only morph that I could actually find at that time was an albino. Now, once I called this particular breeder and was talking to him a little bit about the albino morph, he kind of, well, maybe let it slip out that these weren't true Desert Kings. What he had done, he had crossbred a regular Desert King, like the one you're looking at here, with an albino of another subspecies, that being the the California king snake. He had bred an albino California king into his desert kings in order to produce an albino. Now, we were not looking for hybrids. We wanted true albino desert kings. We knew they existed, but they were hard to locate. It took a couple of years. We finally were able to locate someone who was breeding true pure blood splendidas that were albinos, and we made a purchase and invested in some of those animals. And it took about 3 years before we were able to produce our own. We produced one sibling that year. It ended up being a female, and after about 3 years of raising that female up, we were able to produce our own het for albino desert kings. Now, that has been a project we've been working on for several years now, and we are finally, we can say this year is the first year that we have consistently produced and have made available for sale the albino desert kings. We have about 11 of these guys available this year for sale, and these are extremely beautiful animals, and we 100% guarantee these are not hybrids. These are pure blood splendidas, and these guys are hard to come by, but we do have them available this year. And we hope to, we also have another morph of the Desert King that's coming out pretty soon. We're going to keep a lid on that for right now, and we'll share a little bit more about that with you in the future as those animals become available. But if you're looking for beautiful, beautiful examples of either the normal Florida King that are possibly het for albino, or a beautiful rare albino Desert King, then by all means check us out on our website at Cold Blood Creations or on Facebook. So one of the other king snake morphs that we actually work with here is the California Kings. Now, California Kings are a little bit smaller morph, or subspecies rather, than the Florida King. But we do work with quite a few different color variations. First of all, we've got the Desert Phase. Now, this is not to be confused with the Desert King snake. The Desert Phase of the California King is typically the black and white phase. Now, we have these animals both in a banded variety like you see here. We also have them in a striped variety like you see here. And sometimes they also come in what's called an aberrant pattern, where they're neither banded or striped completely, but somewhat a combination of both. Now, one of the other species, or the other color morphs rather, of California Kings here is the albino California King. And the albino is a lack of black color pigment, and we have the albinos in both striped and banded. And another phase that we work with here at Cold Blood Creations is the banana phase. Some people call this the Chiquita phase of the California King snake, which is this beautiful yellow animal. Kind of resembles a Chiquita banana. And you know, this is one of the prettier morphs in my opinion. But you know, to each their own. We do work with several different color and pattern morphs of these. So if you see something you like, get in touch with us. We have a limited number of Cow Kings this year, so certainly want to get in touch with us, as these will go on a first come, first served basis. So guys, if you saw our previous video on bull snakes, you'll know that we hired a new employee, the infamous Philbilly, and we tried him out feeding some of our snakes. Now, since that didn't quite work out so well for Philbilly, we decided that we're going to try him out in a different department. Now, a lot of you guys have been calling us, ordering various snakes, and we've got to get those shipped out. So we're going to try Philbilly out this week and see if he can possibly help us to get your orders together and ship them out to you. You guys keep your fingers crossed. Philbilly, in your words, can you just kind of give me an idea of how you think your first day on the job went? Well, I thought everything went good right up to the point in time that I started working. Philbilly, Anna wrote out a list of things that she feels like that perhaps you did wrong on the job, and shoot, that dadgum I'm running through her veins. I think we're gonna have to find a department that maybe you'll fit in a little bit better than animal care. This week we're gonna give you a shot over in our shipping department.
Alright, Philbilly, this is what you're gonna do, okay? This is the box. Stop it. This is your lid. Alright, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take a snake, you're gonna put it in the deli cup. Put the lid on the deli cup, put the deli cup inside the box. And then you're gonna put your lid on. Okay? Then take your box. And listen, on the outside of every box, you need to write down the name of the snake, okay?
Yes, dear.
Okay, Philbilly, first thing you need is the box, Philbilly. You got a box, Philbilly. You take the box, you open the box, Philbilly. Then you gotta get a deli cup, Philbilly. You get a orange, daggum one. Put the snake in the bin, Philbilly. You gotta put the snake in the deli cup, Philbilly. Next thing you put the snake in the box, put the snake inside the box.
What was the last thing that wicked woman told me I needed to do on the outside of this dang box?
You need to write down the name of the snake.
Bob, Billy, Jack, freaking Willie. How am I supposed to know what to name these things?
Willie! Looks like a Willie to me. Alright, so I got the first one done. I ain't got another shipping. What in box? What am... Hey, you know what? Little fella, I ain't got another shipping box for you. So we're gonna save them a little money, slip you right down in there, and when they find out how much money I save on shipping boxes, they might just give me a raise.
Alright, how's it going?
Well, it's going good. I got this snake here boxed up. This is your last shipping box, by the way. So I started using these here manila envelopes. And I put his name on the outside the box. And since y'all didn't tell me what y'all named him, I just named him Willie.
You cannot ship snakes in yellow envelopes. And 2, the snake that you packed up was a Florida King snake and not a Willie. We're gonna have to redo everything that you just did.
I just think you don't like me because I'm pretty. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. We hope you found something in here that you can use. We hope you guys like seeing the various color and pattern morphs of the king snakes that we've shown. If we can do anything for you, if you like eating the snakes, you want to contact us, you can contact us through Facebook at Cold Blood Creations, also on our website at www.coldbloodcreations.net.
And also, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. We will be seeing you in our 3rd video.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Give them the death stare.
We gotta end the video here.
Never mind.
Ready? Let me show you how Pro does it. Send us some money, blank checks, cash.